All right, so you guys, we have 3 days left in our hashtag Day in the Life campaign. And ladies and gentlemen, I feel like we wouldn't get here. I told you like on day 2 or 3 that this I immediately regretted putting it out there that I would be going live for 3 weeks straight. But nevertheless, time always moves on as to be expected. And so here we are. So we've talked about contractor issues, tips to expand your business, working with family and friends, and pros and cons of the industry. For the next 3 days, we're going to talk about the current state of the industry, foreclosure activity, and highlighting our best success stories of the year. I'll still be going live at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time for 3 more days. For those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, I am Danielle Pierce, creator of Real Estate Profit Lab and Property Preservation Mastery, 14-year full-time real estate entrepreneur, background in accounting, public accounting, internal audit, and corporate tax. And I've been an entrepreneur since April of 2007 when I was laid off from my, what I thought at the time was my good paying internal audit job at Equity Office Properties in downtown Chicago. So always come into the room, say hello, let me know how you guys are doing. Please hit the like, subscribe, and share button. If you're on YouTube, turn your notifications on. YouTube does not always indicate when I'm live, which I don't know how to correct that, but nevertheless, you guys can self-correct it by turning on the notification bell. All right. Let's see. Again, this is our hashtag Day in the Life campaign. I'm answering one question every single day, or I have answered one question every single day for the last 18 days related to property preservation. I want you all to have a singular place where you can go to get answers to the most commonly asked questions. Thus, this Day in the Life campaign was brought into existence. Usually this is around the time where we transition into highs and lows, and I'll explain briefly what highs and lows are. Highs and lows is something that it's a way for you guys to share insight about your personal lives and for me to do the same, just sharing something great that happened that day today and something not so great that may have happened. So I'll go first. I usually start with lows, so why change it up today? So a low for me is that, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I found a therapist in where I live, not too far, because I've been to therapists before, but I've never been consistent. And so I was like, I wonder what could happen if I was consistently going to see a therapist, basically just taking my own advice, because I always preach that consistency is pretty much all you need is the primary ingredient in order to achieve your goals. So I found a therapist, like her a lot. I've had maybe 3 or 4 sessions, I think. I wasn't real happy about the last session because she told me during the session, she said that I think the way that what she was getting at is that I don't deal with emotions very well. Um, and so, and then she said that I had a pretty traumatic life. And when she said that, I just looked at her like, what the hell are you talking about? So I looked at her, she looked at me, I was back at her, and then, and I was like, well, this is very unfortunate. And then she said, well, that's what I'm talking about. She said, you talk about things that happen to you as though you're talking about a business transaction or as if it happened to somebody else. And I was like, oh, okay. And one of my good friends actually just told me that today too. She said the same thing. She's like, "You're very stoic." I was like, "Well, I don't know. I mean, what should I be? Balled up in a corner, breaking down somewhere? Like, I don't know." So I'm the opposite end of the spectrum, which no extreme is good in my opinion. So I need to work on getting back to the middle. So that's a low. A high for me is that I made a Facebook post earlier today. My 7-year-old, they recommended her for speech therapy, and then it's not made her. She just pronounces her R's kind of like there's a W sound, like a W. And so they sent home a bunch of disclosures. And at first I was like, okay, this sounds cool. It's going to be free. It's through the school. They'll pull her out of class twice a week for 20 minutes. No big deal. Then they sent home a second set of disclosures, or consent forms, I should say. And it's a whole lot of, agreeing to this test, agreeing to this evaluation, like functional, emotional, intellectual, physical, and all these things. I was like, why am I agreeing to all these evaluations just for her to get speech therapy? And then I remember, so I listen to Dr. Umar from time to time, who I think is, I don't know about equal parts, but I think there's a heavy dose of genius along with a heavy dose of I was gonna say a heavy dose of BS. And so I remember one of his videos, he said something about you never agree to these things. This is a bad idea. You're signing away all your rights. And so that was kind of playing in the back of my head. But I'm just like, I like Dr. Umar. I, again, think he's a very brilliant person. But there's also some other stuff that comes out from time to time that it makes me second guess some of the things that he says. But I made a Facebook post and I got some really, really good feedback from people who are actually special education instructors, former teachers, people who've had IEPs, individualized education plans for their children, other people who had speech therapy, speech impediments. And it just reminded me that this is where social media shines, in my opinion, where you can make a request and get a bunch of really solid feedback, and solve problems. So that made me feel like, oh man, I'm so glad that Mark Zuckerberg created Facebook. Other days I'm just like, oh, this is some bullshit. I'm sick of social media. But today was a good day, so that's my high. Drop your highs and lows in the comments. I definitely appreciate you guys for doing that. General reminder, mark your calendars for Wednesday, November 24th, right at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. That is when our Black Wednesday sale starts. You have 5 hours to register for our program, Property Preservation Mastery, for $1,497. That is $1,000 off the regular price, and we're also throwing in an additional $3,000 in bonuses. It's going to be a great day. Last time we talked about saturation and the increase in foreclosures since the end of the moratorium, and today we're talking about home equity in relation to foreclosure activity. So let me explain. So 2008, for those of you who remember, I remember it very vividly because 2008 was a horrendous year for me. Probably 2008, 2009, maybe most of 2010. But so the Great Recession is what they call it. It was primarily due to a bunch of factors. No doc loans, outright shady loans, which were largely given to minorities, an abundance of loans given to folks with very poor credit history, and bank shenanigans, and of course, low equity. And so what had happened was, people were buying at the top end of the market. So imagine, paying $300,000 or getting a loan for 300K for a house, and then 6 to 12 months later, depending upon when you bought, that same house is now worth $225,000. So that is what we call negative equity. And in these situations, your options are short sale, deed in lieu, which is when you try to give the property back to the bank, which very seldom works. And then there's foreclosure. So one of the main premises this time around that people have been saying, like, oh my gosh, this is not going to be like 2008. This is very different. The lending environment is very different. People have a lot more equity. That's kind of been the consensus throughout the pandemic. And then the most recent articles that have come out, and I'll share the sources with you guys in a moment, have stated that those strong equity positions are not actually reality. All right, so I got a few points I want to cover. First point is that there's an article came out October the 4th, printed in dsnews.com. So D as in David, S as in Sam, the word news.com. That article indicates that high equity borrowers are 40% less likely to face involuntary loss of their home. So that sounds good, right? But the flip side of that is that means that 60% of high equity borrowers do face a higher likelihood of, some type of involuntary loss, which again, foreclosure, short sale, or deed in lieu. And again, that article, what is the name of the article? It is, if you're on our email list, you would have gotten it. It's called Strong Equity Stakes May Not Prevent Foreclosure Starts. That's the name of the article. If you Google that, you'll be able to find it. Or if you've been paying attention, you already have subscribed to dsnews.com from when I mentioned it on prior days, so you already know this information. Second point is that the housing market has shown its first sign of cooling off, with, I think it was August, representing the first time that appreciation has not increased in like 15 months. So imagine that. So 15 straight months of housing appreciation during a pandemic, with so many people that have, one, lost their jobs and not going back to work because the job no longer exists, or just opting out of the workforce entirely. So that's the point I wanted to make as well. And the third point, and this is information that I actually did not know, which I thought was really interesting, and is that the average monthly mortgage payment is at the highest it's been since late 2007. Average monthly mortgage payment is at the highest it's been since late 2007. That is a big deal. That is information that I actually did not know. And then November the 3rd, there was an article from CNBC, which indicates, I think many of us know this already, that the days of low interest rates are definitely numbered. And also talked a lot about inflation, again, being on the horizon. I say inflation is here and has been here for a while. If you've been paying attention, just my thoughts. And there's other articles that back that up as well. But you guys can, again, trust and verify or independently verify anything that I mentioned on this video. So based on everything that I mentioned above, which is 4 separate points, I have pretty much a similar recommendations as I did yesterday, which is if you're currently working in preservation, check in with your vendor coordinators to see what, if any, backlog is expected to unload over the next several months now that the moratorium is over. Think about getting your GC license, which varies depending upon where you live. If you're in a place like Chicago, you just do an application, pay a fee. You have to have general liability insurance, and bam, you get your GC license. Other places, you actually have to know how to, do certain things in the field in order to get your license. But I do encourage you to go ahead and get that. It's really not that big of a deal. It's not expensive to get. So I think it's a pretty solid idea. So get your GC license or get a license in one of the trades, whether that be electrical, HVAC, roofing or plumbing, because that'll mean that you will be able to more easily branch out to other areas, which we've mentioned in prior videos during this campaign. And if you're not able to do it yourself or you don't want to, consider just getting the GC license as the owner and then hiring subs that have those specific licenses already. You'll pretty much get the same benefit from doing that. I do recommend being consistent in your work and subscribe to the publications that I mentioned before. So again, dsnews.com and nationalmortgagenews.com. And my last recommendation, honestly, is to watch news that will benefit your business versus being distracted by, what's the word that I'm looking for? Being distracted by the distractions, and there's many of them on any given day. I love a good meme or joke or viral video just as much as anyone else, but I also absorb other information that will benefit me in a far greater percentage than I do dumb shit or nonsense, as whatever word whatever word makes you feel better. So I encourage you to pay attention to news that will actually benefit your business versus the stuff that kind of floats through social media. It's funny though it may be. Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about the specific changes that we are making to Property Preservation Mastery and when those changes will be live. Existing students will have access to those new changes. I'll break down the additional modules, how many more lessons I think it'll be. I think we'll end up at 100 lessons and probably 12 modules. Right now, there's 7. I'll break down the different areas that are going to be added. And again, it won't be ready until likely January, because after this campaign, of course, there's Thanksgiving, there's Christmas. I intend to take a break and, chill for, I would say for a while, but knowing me, I'll probably be doing something else, primarily studying to get my insurance license and my CFP certification, certified financial planner. So I'm sure I'll find something else to occupy my time. I always do, but that is what is on the horizon. So again, come back tomorrow, 7:00 Central Standard Time, same place. And again, whether you're on YouTube, please turn on the notification bell. If you're on Facebook, I don't know what you do on Facebook. I think you can turn on notifications on Facebook as well. I appreciate any shares that you guys feel led to do. And of course, on Instagram, please be sure to leave comments or like, subscribe, whatever is easiest for you to do. We appreciate all interaction and all efforts to share our content. All right. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Appreciate your time as always. Sending you love, light, peace, blessings, grace, and clarity. I'll be back here tomorrow. Same time, same place. Bye-bye.